was the mysterious woman who not only gave King Arthur his magical sword Excalibur, but kidnapped Sir Lancelot as a child only later to cure him up of his madness. The Lady of the Lake is a name or title used by several either fairy or fairy-like but human enchantresses in the matter of Britain, the body of medieval literature and mythology associated with the legend of King Arthur. She plays several important roles in many stories, including providing Arthur with the sword Excalibur, eliminating Merlin, raising Lancelot after the death of his father, and helping to take the dying Arthur to Avalon. Different sources known as the Lady of the Lake appear concurrently as separate characters in some versions of the legend, since at least the post-Vulgate cycle and consequently the seminal Le Morte d'Arthur, with the latter describing them as a hierarchical group, while some texts also give this title to either Morgan or Arthur's sister. The Lady of the Lake may have been a Celtic goddess in origin, perhaps even related to Gwagd Anwen, the lake fairies in modern Welsh folklore. According to Ulrich, a fairy raised Sir Lancelot from birth and was the mother of Mabus, identical to the Celtic god Mabun. There are several ladies of the lake mentioned throughout Arthurian legend, with even Morgan Le Fay being named as one of them, in particular as she is one of the maidens on the bark that takes King Arthur to the mythical Isle of Avalon. Vivian may very well have been the true Lady of the Lake that is talked about in most Arthurian legends and stories. Vivian, sometimes called Nineveh, Nimue, or Ninine, is best known as the woman who sealed Merlin in a cave or a tree and put him under a spell. Richard Wilbur referred to Vivian as a creature to bewitch a sorcerer, and even though Merlin could foretell and foresee his captivity, he was unable to stop it or overcome his enchantment with Vivian. In Sir Thomas Mallory's book Le Morte d'Arthur, Nineveh, another of the Ladies of the Lake, deprives King Arthur of Merlin's services, but then rescues him twice later on. The first rescue is from Accolon, who has been given Excalibur Morgan Le Fay to use against the king. The second rescue is her coming to aid of Merlin and preventing his wearing of the destructive cloak that Morgan Le Fay sent to him to wear. The Lady of the Lake's character is super ambiguous, even in her most early appearances in the legends and stories. In the French Vulgate essay The Merlin, she loves the enchanter and seals him in a beautiful tower, magically constructed so that she can keep him always for herself. She would visit him regularly and ended up giving her love to him. In the continuation, the Vulgate Merlin, known as the Suite de Merlin, the relationship is very different. When Merlin shows her a tomb of two lovers magically sealed, she enchants him and has him cast into the tomb on top of the two lovers, whereupon she reseals the tomb and Merlin dies a slow death. Further theories connect her to the Welsh lake fairies known as the Gwagd Anwen, including a Lady of the Lake unrelated to the legend of Arthur, the Celtic water goddess Gavinina, worshipped in the Roman British times as Coventina, and the Irish goddess of the underworld Befin. The mythical Greek sea nymph Thetis, mother of the hero Achilles, similarly provides her son with magical weapons. Like the Lady of the Lake, Thetis is a water spirit who raises the greatest warrior of her time. Thetis' husband is named Peleus, while in some tales the Lady of the Lake has the knight Peleus as her lover. Thetis also uses magic to make her son invulnerable, similar to how Lancelot receives a ring that protects him from magic. The Greek myth may therefore have inspired or influenced the Arthurian legend, especially since the Iliad involving Thetis was well known across the former Roman Empire and among the medieval writers dealing with Celtic myth and lore. The Roman fort Abalava, known to the post-Roman Britons as Avalana, and today seen by some as the location of the historical Avalon, had been also curiously dedicated to the Roman water goddess Diallatis. Lawrence Gardner, who interpreted the Arthurian romance's stated biblical origins of Lancelot's bloodline by noting the belief about Jesus, purported wife Mary Magdalene's later life in Gaul, or today's France, and her death at Aquae Sixte. He identified her descendant as the 6th century Countess of Amalun named Vivienne d'Aix, or of the water, whose 3 daughters associated with the mother of Lancelot, of Arthur, and of Gavin, would thus became known as the Ladies of the Lake. Following the above-mentioned works of Curtin and Ulrich, the Lady of the Lake began appearing by this title in the French chivalric romance prose by the early 13th century, as a fairy grandmother type foster mother of the hero Lancelot. She inherits the role of an unnamed aquatic fairy queen, her prototype from 12th century poetry, while Ulrich Lanzelet uses the changeling part of the fairy abduction lore in regards to the Mabuse and Lancelot. The lady has no offspring of her own in Curtin's and later versions. In the Lancelot Grey Vulgate prose cycle, the lady resides in an otherworldly enchanted realm, the entry to which is disguised as an illusion of a lake. The post-Vulgate explains it as Merlin's work. There, she raises Lancelot from his infancy, having stolen him from his mother following the death of his father, King Ben. She teaches Lancelot arts and writing, infusing him with wisdom and courage, and overseeing his training to become an unsurpassed warrior. She also rears his orphaned cousins Lionel and Bors, after having her sorceress damsel Sireid, later called Silas, rescue them from King Claudius. All this takes her only a few years in the human world. Afterwards, she sends off the adolescent Lancelot to King Arthur's court as the nameless White Knight, due to her own affinity with the color white. Through much of the prose Lancelot proper, the lady keeps aiding Lancelot in various ways during his early adventures to become a famed knight and discover his true identity, usually acting through her maidens, serving as her agents and messengers. She gives him her magical gifts, including a magic ring of protection against enchantments in a manner similar in that to to his fairy protectress in Chrétien's version. The same of another of her magic rings also grants Lancelot's lover, Queen Guinevere, immunity from Morgana's power in the Prohibitus de Merlin. Later, she also works to actively encourage Lancelot and Guinevere's relationship and its consummation. This includes sending Guinevere a symbolically illustrated magic shield, the crack in which closes up after the queen finally spends her first night with Lancelot, and furthermore personally arrives to restore Lancelot to sanity during some of his recurring periods of madness. Another unnamed lady of the lake appears in the post-Vulgate tradition to bestow the magic sword Excalibur from Avalon to Arthur in a new iconic scene. She is presented as a mysterious early benefactor of the young King Arthur, who is directed and led to her by Merlin. Appearing in her lake, she grants him Excalibur and its special scabbard, after his original, also unnamed sword breaks in the duel against King Pellinore. She is a mysterious character who is evidently neither Morgan nor the damsel huntress, but may possibly have a connection to the Lady of Avalon from the Prophéties de Merlin, later in the post-Vulgate suit de Merlin. This Lady of the Lake is suddenly attacked and beheaded at King Arthur's court by Sir Balin as a result of a keen feud between them. She blames Balin for the death of Waverley, either her brother or her lover, while he blames her for the death of his mother, who had been burned at the stake. And a dispute over another enchanted sword from Avalon. Her body later vanishes. All this takes place during the time when Merlin is still at Arthur's side and prior to the introduction of the young Vivian in the same branch of the post-Vulgate cycle. Modern retellings, however, usually omit the episode of her apparent killing by Balin and often make her the same character as Vivian. A number of locations are traditionally associated with the Lady of the Lake's abode. Such places within Great Britain include the Lakes Dusmary Pool and the Loo. In Cornwall, the Lakes Llan Ledo and Llan Ogwen in Snowdonia, River Bruce area of Pomperless Bridge in Somerset, and the Lake Loch Arthur in Scotland. Alfred Lord Tennyson turns Vivian into the personification of evil. Edwin Arlington Robinson in the poem Merlin makes Merlin's captivity voluntary, and his Vivian is less of an enchantress than an interesting woman whom Merlin truly loves. So, who is the Lady of the Lake, or Vivian? Was she good, evil, or a bit of both? Perhaps she was a combination of many imaginative tales and came to be popularized as one of the primary characters of the Arthurian legends. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.